Hello friends, in today's video I want to talk you through how I decorated this coffee jar. It was a fun little project to do that actually ended up turning out much better than what I expected it to and what I thought it would, especially in those awkward middle stages. So the first thing that I do is I clean off the labels of my jar. So to do that I fill up a bowl with hot water and a little bit of washing up liquid. So I emptied the boiling kettle into it and I left it to soak for about 30 to 40 minutes. And as you can see, when I came back, one of the labels came straight off. And then the second label did leave a little bit of residue on it, but as you can see again, I'm just using my fingers and it comes straight off, and then the tiny little bit of glue that was left on it came straight off when I got a sponge out. Ignore the state of my sponge, it's the sponge that I used to clean off paint off of my plates and stuff, so that's why it's looking like that. But yeah, as you can see, the labels came straight off and the jar was very nice and clean, so then I just gave it a rinse and I let it dry. Once it was fully dry, I further degreased the surface using methylated spirit on a little bit of cloth. And so I wiped the outside of the lid and the outside of the jar. Very important, don't get any methylated spirit on the inside of your jar or on the inside of your lid if you want the jar to still be usable afterwards. So then I applied one layer of difficult surface primer both on the outside of the lid and the jar. And so as you can see, I only decorated sort of the main parts of the jar. I did not decorate any parts where they will be covered with the lid because I was planning to still use this jar, and I actually am now. So I store my coffee in it. With the use of the lid, as you can screw it on and off, no matter how well you prime your surface, with use the paint is still gonna come off eventually. So then once the primer was fully dry, I applied another layer of chalk paint. So this time I used white chalk paint. The chalk paint that I'm using currently is by Rust-Oleum, but any chalk paint or acrylic paint will do for this. So then when the chalk paint was dry, I applied the picture. So the picture that I used is from Digital Collage Club again. So just like in one of my latest videos, the pictures that they have are truly amazing and you're going to see me use them a lot. I will link to the paper pack that I used for this project as well for you. And I just printed it out using my normal inkjet printer and photo paper. Important to use photo paper, as if you're using inkjet printer, normal office paper will bleed through. So if you've got an inkjet printer, you can print pictures, but use photo paper because photo paper seals the ink in and then it doesn't bleed. So what I did is I soaked the paper with water for a couple of minutes, then I dabbed the excess water off. So then I applied some Mod Podge to the back of the picture, put it on where I wanted it to be, then I used a cloth to dab it down, make sure it was down all the way, there was no air bubbles or any excess glue anywhere underneath, so that it glued on very nicely, and then I applied another layer of Mod Podge over the top to seal it all off. Then after it was fully dry, I started to apply my molds. So I'm using Das modeling clay and my silicone mold. So I ended up using some redesigned with Prima molds and some molds that I bought on eBay a long time ago. I will link to as many of them as I possibly can in the description below so you can see. And so I used my little border rope molds to frame the picture and the top of the lid, and then I used these redesigned with Prima molds to add these little leaves and also decorate the back and the sides of the lid. And then on the top of the lid I ended up applying one of the molds that I bought from eBay like a long time ago. I have actually managed to find it, so I will link to it in the description below. All of the molds that I buy on eBay are obviously bought on eBay UK, so I'm not sure if they will ship worldwide. I know it's quite common on eBay that a lot of sellers ship worldwide, and actually this seller is from Poland, so when I bought it, it came from Poland. So wherever you are in the world, just click the link and have a look and see if you are able to get it, and if you can't, then at least it'll give you an idea of what to look for. So as I said, this is Das air drying clay. I'm actually using the terracotta one at the moment because when I went to buy some more, they didn't have any white, so that's what I ended up with. And then I used trade PVA glue to glue them down. So this is what it looks like when it's fully dry. So it's still very terracotta, but it's a little bit lighter in places. And so I went ahead and I painted it this green color, which again is a custom mix of acrylics and chalk paint. So I usually use white chalk paint as a base, and then I add acrylics to get the color that I need. And so I applied 2 coats of this green paint on the top of the lid and the jar itself. I don't have any footage of painting the jar because unfortunately I ran out of memory and did not know about it, but that's all I'm doing. I'm just applying 2 coats of the same paint. So then I start distressing the paint, adding dimension to the whole thing. So the first shade that I added was this sandy brown color, and I just used this natural bristle brush and dry brushing method just to make this green color a little bit less green and start adding a little bit of dimension to the whole thing. The reason why I went for this sandy brown was because I was trying to add some of the colors that you can see on the decoupage picture into the mix so that everything blends in a little bit better. So because the little cup and the saucer have like gold and red on it, I also ended up dry brushing a little bit of red paint. And so I add this red paint all over the molds, and I also added it to the actual jar itself, not just the mold, but only from kind of the top and the bottom of it. Then, to get ready for aging of the whole thing, I applied 1 layer of gloss varnish. So this is Wilko's glossy quick drying varnish. Again, I will link to it in the description below so you can have a look. And so I apply 1 layer of that all over the jar and the lid, and it's important to do that because it's going to help us wipe away the excess paint when we do the next step. Once the varnish was dry, I go ahead and start aging. So as you can see, in the same mix of sandy brown that I had left over, I just added some darker brown and also black, mixed it all together, also watered it down. Watering it down helps making wiping away easier, and so what I do, did not manage to get a very good shot for some reason. I'm like in the corner there, so apologies for that. But essentially what I do is I kind of slap it on everywhere, put it all over the whole thing, and then take my cloth and wipe it away. And so what happens is that you wipe away most of the paint that you just applied, but it ends up sticking in all of the creases and crevices that you have there. So this is what it was looking like after I've done all of the steps. And then I add a little bit of gold wax. So the wax that I'm using is by Finnabar. This is Art Alchemy metallic wax in antique gold, I believe. Once again, I'll link to it in the description below for you. And just using my finger, I apply it on top of the molds, and that helps them stand out and kind of brings the whole thing together, because of course gold is a yellowy color, and we have a picture on front of our jar that has yellow tones in it, and that's what helps bring the whole thing together. Again, I'm not trying to get in everywhere and make the whole mold gold. I just kind of rub my finger over it, and wherever it sticks, and you can still see bits of red and green and stuff popping through there. And lastly, to seal the whole thing, I used heavy duty wood varnish by Polyvine, and I ended up applying 2 layers of it. And so I make sure to apply it everywhere, make sure that it goes into all of the creases and crevices, there's no spot left untouched, and I only varnish the parts that I've actually painted. So on the top of the jar, I make sure to stop where the paint stops. Same goes for the lid. I only varnished the outside of the lid, and then I left the varnish to cure for about a day or so, and I washed the jar and the lid from the inside. Of course, I was very careful, and like I said, I actually store my coffee inside of it now, so it sits in my kitchen. And yeah, so this was how I decorated a coffee jar, and actually it turned out much better than what I expected it, especially after I applied all of the mold. I was looking at it thinking, oh my god, what have I done? This just looks terrible. But yeah, so this is the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something new today. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more of these kind of videos. If you have any suggestions or requests, make sure to leave those in the comments down below. If you would like to connect with me on any of my other social media, there are links in the description as well. Like I said, any links that I can find to the product used, I will leave those in the description as well. If I can't find a direct link, I will link you to the next best thing, in my opinion. Please keep in mind that Amazon links are affiliate links, so if you end up purchasing through those links, I might get a small commission. And yeah, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.